although we'll wait another minute or two to start the meeting. There's some thank you notes from the students who went to the FFA convention, so we're passing those around.
Noted that these students,
I think one of the
Minuteman students has taken this trip. They said the same students. I think that's it.
I've been a cynic ever since. Never take anything for face value.
Very nice. I know, what a great idea. Train and only their artificial peach.
I even had a great nephew to whom I send birthday cards call me on the phone from college to thank me for the check I sent him. I was like,
Wonders never cease.
that way. Yeah, yeah.
We skipped you, though.
Yeah, I didn't want you to miss that one.
He must be hard up for money, so he thinks I'll send him some more money next year, which I will. But just
It's
for,
artificial anything is.
At least he's being nice about it.
yeah, he a phone call.
All right.
Very impressed.
Yeah, not a text, phone call.
Yeah, a real live phone call. And I didn't hear his mother in the background either, who's my niece.
Cool.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Feel good stuff.
I still from my 40-year-old daughter, so it's your thing.
Oh, this one has a $20 bill in it for us. How did you miss that?
Oh, it slipped out of my pocket. You can send it back.
Mr. Trump did show up for the FFA. But our kids had gotten out by then, so.
The person who was handing out the award, we have been,
We'll go one more minute, then we'll start.
I'll explain.
Till we use their clock. What do you have on your watch?
He's got a lot of.
Is yours an atomic watch?
No, it's a.
Oh, 628.
Yeah, but that's
Oh, I
fine.
like that.
Nice and big. I can change it to Mickey Mouse if you want.
And I really didn't want to.
That's neat.
No, it's the thing. There we go.
I turned it on my phone and got it.
You got it right away?
Yeah.
What, you should let us know what minute it is.
Yeah, she's an observer, so I'm glad we didn't start.
Oakland, no.
It looks like we are all in our places, so I call the meeting to order at 6:30 PM. We'll start the meeting if there's anyone who is here tonight who would like to make a comment to the school committee. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the chair's report. Just quick item from me for the good of the organization. I just want to mention that it was about 2 weeks ago when I had a tour of the new school going up, thanks to Ford and the staff who's erecting our wonderful new school. If you get a chance, I know that Jeff went recently. If you have not gone recently, you'll be amazed at the amount of progress that occurs from 1 week to the next. So I know it's getting a little chilly. It's still worth the visit. So you can get in touch with Ford, and he will be happy to arrange it for you. So thank you, Ford, for that. On page 4, under the chair's report, are the school committee goals and actions for 2018-19. And they have been reworked. They were reworked, you might say, at the officers' meeting, where we took the suggestions that we heard from either that came through Julia or were at the meeting. And we did, although typically we don't prioritize our goals, if nothing more than for appearance sake, but of course it is, increase enrollment for member towns is listed first. So if you've had a chance to take a look at those, anyone have any questions about them at this point? Jeff?
Just the wording on goal 1 is a little bit confusing. I know the intent, but I think that collaborate with superintendent doesn't make sense. So it
With
could
the
be
superintendent?
With the superintendent, and the task force to identify, it should be probably, instead of kids, should be probably appropriate areas for contributions of school committee members. The intent is clear, but the English is a little bit.
Say that again, to
Yes.
identify,
To identify appropriate areas for contributions of school committee members.
appropriate
Areas for
Areas.
contributions of school committee
Areas.
members.
for contribution to school committee members.
Mm-hmm.
Any other question or comment about it? Jim?
As you may remember, for the past 2 meetings, I had talked about putting a Section 10B goal there, and I appreciate that at last month's meeting, I sort of said, look, I'm just looking for some sign of encouragement to keep working on that, and I felt like I had that, and we had a good discussion at the officers' meeting, and collectively I've decided not to put that in as a separate goal, but instead recognizing that this work is going to go through the different subcommittees and task force, and primarily the finance subcommittee, and there's a bullet point there that we're going to study the non-member tuition policy. But if you're wondering what happened to the Section 10B goal, it's not gone, it's not forgotten, it's just in a different form.
It's definitely underway.
The only comment I have is I would like to see it incorporated in our discussion on enrollments.
Right, right.
And I think, as from a viewpoint of a discussion, because it's a point of understanding exactly what the intent is, I think is very important. So I think it needs to be aired by this committee from a discussion point.
It's going to be, it will be, yeah.
I wasn't going to go to length on this, and I don't want to now, but we got into talking about what was meant by the language, who wrote it, what does it mean in the current context, and what were different ways of looking at it, and didn't talk a whole lot on the formula itself at our last Finance Committee meeting. We've got some reworked spreadsheet and ideas that we will take up at our next meeting. So it wasn't ready to bring back to this table.
Right, that's the only
Just leave it
reason,
at
but
that.
it's definitely coming back to the school committee.
Thank Jim for being open-minded and patient with our questions.
Also, first of all, do I hear a motion to approve the goals? Okay. Any other discussion? I will bring up something else after this, but any other questions or comments about it? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstain? It's unanimous. I also would like to mention under school committee goals and actions that it really relates to goal number 1, increasing the enrollment for member towns. That I received a request from 2 members of the school committee that we have a special school committee meeting that focuses on enrollment. And when we move down to the superintendent's report under increasing membership in the district, Pam will tell us a little bit more about that. But we'd like to, the people who wrote to me, the 2 members who wrote to me, suggested that we have a separate special school committee meeting on enrollment and what we can do as a school committee about that. So I personally think that's a good idea, and what I would like to request of Julie is to send out an email to the members to see what might be a good day for us to meet between now, as early as December, so that we can have that information, so we can talk about that in length and in detail as a single topic for a meeting. Any questions about that? But Pam will tell you more about it in just a minute. Okay. So moving on to the superintendent's report.
Well, as you know, we've received a great honor in regards to the 2018 National Blue Ribbon Award. Jack attended the award with 2 teachers, which I thought was more appropriate than the superintendent or some school committee members going.
What? I would have gotten an audience for them.
Oh, yes, and you would have been handing out envelopes with letters. So Jack, want to give us an overview of what you guys are?
The first thing I'd like to do is I'll just pass around some paperwork that I felt was probably appropriate for you guys to have. I don't think it's included in your packet. While that's being passed out, I just want to say thank you to Ed and the school committee for allowing me to go on this trip. It's actually the first trip in my 13 years that I've actually been out of the building for a few days altogether, which was nice to do. I don't often, I'll admit, like to do that. I think my first priority is making sure I'm here in the building as the principal. So to go to Washington for the past few days, it was really quite an experience. So we flew out Tuesday afternoon. For those of you that remember last Tuesday's weather, it wasn't good around here. It was probably the worst flight I've ever been on, and I don't like flying to begin with. So I was glad to get up there and then land as quick as possible. We got to the hotel around 2 o'clock. We stayed at the Omni right in Washington, D.C. That's where everything took place. And we had all day, or the rest of the afternoon Tuesday to kind of do what we wanted to do. So we went to the News Museum in Washington, which was phenomenal. We probably spent about 4 hours there. They asked us to leave finally because they were closing, but it was great. Had dinner. I wish I could tell you something exciting, but I was in my hotel bedroom by 9 o'clock watching the Duke basketball game. Got up Wednesday. We had breakfast with all the contingencies that were there. And Wednesday was more or less a time for the non-public schools to receive their award and go through their ceremony. So once again, we had some free time. We went and traveled D.C., saw the changing of the guard, the Jefferson Monument, saw all the monuments. So we had a good afternoon. We kept track of it. We walked 6.7 miles. So again, by the time we got back to the hotel, had dinner, we were early to bed that night. And then Thursday was really our big day. We went to a couple presentations. One was by Sheila Harity. Is her last name, Ed?
Yeah.
She used to be she's presently the superintendent at Montechusett, Monty Tech, Vocational Technical High School, but she was the principal during Worcester's time when they received the National Blue Ribbon Award back in, I think, 2013. And she talked about, how great it was for their school and how it basically changed everything they did. And of course, if you remember back then, President Obama actually came and did the graduation speech. So when Trump grabbed me on Thursday and asked if he wanted to come to ours in June, I said I'd take it under advisement and talk to my school committee first, so we can vote on that later. So actually, it was a great time. We received our award on Thursday afternoon, and I'll pass around the award itself. And on this side, I'll pass around the actual certificate and the letter from Betsy DeVos, and on this side, I'll pass around the actual certificate. And I don't know if people have been in the mall area, but we got a really nice banner that they already sent us, and then they also gave us a brand-new flag to put wherever we want. Might need some help showing it off, but
Did he get a plaque also for the, you can paste on a podium or something?
We bought a bronze
To buy it.
circle that
Yeah.
is going to go in the building.
Ed, did you see the new flag?
Oh, good.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
We can run that on the flagpole then, right?
Yeah.
They suggest that you not put it on the flagpole only because it'll get rolled pretty quick. You can buy as many as you want, so.
Yeah, there's a little cottage industry around people who win this stuff. You get like emails from 5 or 6 different vendors offering you all kinds of swag that has your,
Offer you to buy.
oh, no, yes. Yeah,
The
offering.
first one was for free, everything else you have to pay for, of course.
We did buy a round bronze plaque that'll go into the wall as you walk in the door of the new school. It'll be there forever.
Very nice. You also photograph well, Jack.
thanks,
Photos.
Was it fun, Jack?
So it was great. We had a great few days. More importantly, it was just an honor to be there to represent you guys and the school and the students as a whole. And the funny thing about it was, you know, as you're talking to some of the other award recipients, and they want to know what your school is all about, you know, all they want to really talk about is academics. And for us, it was a little bit different because we could easily say this is about academics, but it's not. It's because we integrate academics and career tech ed so well that I know I can say as the principal, and Ed can agree, this is for the CTE teachers too, because we do it all across the curriculum. So, you know, I'm just proud of everybody. It was a great time. So I have actually John Cameretta running some data so we can look at, you know, how many vocational schools in the country have this. I know we're with one of two in Massachusetts, so it's Worcester Tech and us, the only two vocational schools in Massachusetts. Abington and Swampscott were the other two Massachusetts schools with us that day. So it was a great honor.
They had some sessions there too, you were
Yeah,
talking about?
they had two sessions, so Sheila was one of them. And then the other one that I thought was really interesting was a conference called How to Leverage Your National Blue Ribbon Award. And, you know, I don't want to take up all the time, maybe some of the stuff I can save for the enrollment task force, but they really talked about striking while the iron is hot. And we've all talked about that at different places and times, but, you know, this is an award that will never go away. You'll always be the 2018 National Blue Ribbon Award school. However, it kind of disappears in about 5 years, and then you can kind of go for it again. There was one school that was there while we were there that this was their fourth time receiving it.
Wow.
But they did tell us that's very unusual. You may never be back again. So you have to take this time that we have, and Ed and I have talked, and George and I have talked, and again, we can talk more at the enrollment task force, but we really need to leverage this award. We really need to get the word out there, and, you know, I can forward you some more information through Julie as to some talking points about why we won it, how we won it, and what we did, but it was great. I was glad to be there.
Well, it's an enormous achievement on the part of the school, and I think we're all very proud of you and the school and Ed and everyone who made this possible. We're sort of there, you know, cheering for you, but it's everyone at the school who did it, including the students too.
Absolutely.
They had to put in the time and the work too, but it's really an enormous and incredible and well-deserved achievement and award on the part of the school. So thank you for spearheading it, and both of you, and thank you for representing us and the school so well in Washington, Jack. So thank you very
We had a good
much.
time. And just for those people that did watch the actual award ceremony, people were highly encouraged to get up on stage and dance for some reason.
Which,
The lady that ran it, she had a pretty big job, but her name was Abba Kumi. And she actually said right at the beginning, if you're not going to come up here and dance and celebrate, I'm going to do it for you. This will be the biggest award your school ever get. It's a 2.5-hour presentation. I'm up here to dance. I know I'm not a dancer, so I was like, I'm not doing any of that, but the music that was going on, well, it was so loud. You couldn't even hear yourself talk to someone at your table. The music was so loud. But then when they announced your school, the guy's voice cut into the music. It was different. But she stood up there and danced the whole time, and of course, if you watched it, Mr. Fusco got up there and gave her a little spin, and he had fun, and everyone had a good time.
that's all I saw. When I saw, oh my God, what's he doing?
I
Yeah.
thought she was irritating.
Ah, so irritating.
What's her role? What does she do? What's her?
I'll have to get it for you. I have it in another booklet upstairs, but she's like the assistant director to the Secretary of Education. She's got a pretty big job.
Secretary of Education didn't spend much time.
She spent about 7 minutes there. She was whisked in and out by the Secret Service. But she did speak.
Oh, I heard
Yeah,
her speak.
yeah. Yep. So,
Thanks, Jack, for
Yeah.
going, and thanks for sharing us
Thank
some
you.
of the moments of the presentation and your time there. It was great. Okay, Ed?
So, Did you want to talk about goal number 1 in the agenda, or you want to talk about?
Why don't, you can say whatever you want to say first, and then we'll.
Okay.
how-
Well,
and
increasing
we'll
membership, you
jump in.
page 8, I think, has a copy of the article about Watertown meeting tonight.
Yeah.
Well, Dee Dee, the superintendent just texted me at 6:35. The meeting was postponed until Monday at 6. I'll call you tomorrow. So that concludes item E3. I know Jim has to get somewhere. Campus development, there's sort of 2 tracks going on now. One is the ongoing discussions with the town of Lexington. They start a town meeting tonight. We had been asked to provide a report to the town meeting, which they expect could go to Thursday, but the town manager's office withdrew that request of us. Not based upon anything negative, but just based upon, I don't think they wanted to get into a big, long discussion at town meeting about an item that they're not going to see until the next
Until the
town
spring.
meeting. But we have had a couple of meetings with Lexington. Dave has attended all of them, I believe, the most recent ones, where we're working with the architect to finalize the design, which should be over the next couple of weeks. Again, we've had input from a number of different groups in Lexington, and the design is moving ahead. We're hoping to be able to price things for Lexington and for us before the end of the year, so that the March town meeting, when the voters of Lexington or the town meeting will approve this or not. I guess there's still a lot of questions that have to be worked out. You know, like what can CPA funds pay for? Are they going to borrow some of this? So it's been a very healthy, good discussion with Lexington, and it seems to be a lot of support for it.
Yeah. It also came before Lexington's Community Preservation Committee, on which I sit. And there was enthusiasm with a small e, I would say. I don't mean that in a negative way, but several people on the committee spoke saying about a great opportunity it could be, and how we might be able to pay for it. And Peter Coleman and the other people from the town who came before the Community Preservation Committee really have been doing a very good job working with Minutemen and also talking to people in Lexington. They've talked to a lot of groups in Lexington. I mean, it's certainly not a done deal that the there will be community preservation money or other sources. But there certainly is from what I could gather from hearing people talk, a very positive feeling about the whole project, which was very, very good, very nice to hear. There were questions from the CPC regarding what the memorandum of understanding, if it may be called something else, exactly what it would entail, who's going to pay for it, who's going to maintain it, who's going to do this and who's going to do that. But of course, that's all being worked on, and they know that. And again, the people from Lexington presented it very well to the CPC, I thought, and have been working well here. Alice, yeah.
What's the timeline for the school committee to learn about it and vote on it so that then Lexington can vote on it? How does it, and it gets published into the warrant and everything?
Well, what the school committee will be voting on will be the MOU. And in the MOU, we'll outline a number of different components that Dave alluded to. Responsibilities. We're hoping to get as detailed an MOU as is reasonable. There may be I'm sure there'll be a subsequent contract that the school committee would review as well. That'll talk more about the business model. We want to make sure that the Minuteman School District has complete control over the property, that none of that is ever relinquished. So if you're familiar with our facilities pricing structure, and Lexington's too, there are different tiers. You know, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 is Minuteman, its partners in its district. And then once all those needs are met, that's the hours that Lexington would be utilizing the facility, mostly in the evening and.
Right, but
Weekend.
the only body that can actually approve this from the point of view of Minuteman is the committee, right?
Right.
So I just want to make sure that there's sufficient time for the school committee to review everything, since we really don't know anything about it. And then have an opportunity to, take a vote at perhaps a second meeting, so that we're not faced with seeing it for the first time at a meeting and then being expected to vote on it at that time. And if we don't vote on it, we miss the publication deadline for the Lexington Town Meeting. And so there's a great deal of pressure to approve something that's been worked on for a long time, but which has had no school committee input. So I just want to make sure that the school committee is completely in the loop on this in a mindful way.
Jim and then Carrie.
Just a question as to who is that drafting it? I mean, is it being done in-house, with resources here, or is it primarily being drafted by some outside counsel or consultants?
There are 4 bodies that are working on it. One is me, one is the folks in Lexington, then the UMass Donahue Institute, remember who we hired about a year ago, and our council.
So it's. So it's not necessarily going through Kevin and, I mean, from a finance or business office point of view, or?
Well, Kevin's involved,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Carrie.
I just wanted to pretty much second what Alice said, even to the point where there may be blanks that say, TBD, what's the intention, and the specifics aren't worked out yet. So we know what the thought process is. Seeing something that is a complete document here, thumbs up or thumbs down, I don't think is what we want here.
Well, Ed, let's at our next meeting, next regular meeting, present as much as that can be presented. I don't mean that anything's hush-hush, but what's actually been done so far, and what people are thinking of and put in draft form in writing. I think we should have all of that at the next meeting.
Well, we'll have as much as we do. I mean, what you're saying is similar, if not the same, as what all the folks in Lexington are saying. And in order for them, we're trying to have a draft in December, is what the target date has been.
But we'll keep it campus development as an agenda item, and whatever is available by next meeting, let's see it. So
Yeah, if I could just, the school committee is going to have to get much more involved in the campus development in a few weeks' time, because the other parallel track, I don't want to short-circuit the questions about Lexington, but the RFI for the other development opportunities that the Donahue Institute sent Kevin and I yesterday morning is being reviewed as well. And that calls for, as you remember, calls for a couple representatives from the school committee to be on a committee that looks at the responses to the requests for information from potential partners. So that should be a discussion at the next officers meeting about how to go about that. And when I mean that, I mean who wants to be involved in that.
Alice, you had your hand up?
Oh, I wondered when your town meeting is.
It'll be in March. There's a special town meeting now, but
The
nothing's
end of
happening.
March.
Special
So
town
your
meeting.
warrant closes in January?
Beginning of first week in January.
So if we see a draft in December, it's very short, very short.
Well, maybe if we need to, we'll call another meeting to be able to review it. But I agree with you, we shouldn't just have it on our plates and be asked to vote for on the same night.
I don't know how Lexington works, but typically, it closes, you've just reserved a spot in
Yeah,
there. You
yeah.
haven't done all
Yeah.
your work, because the work is very much done by attorneys, even up to the last, just before the town meeting. So reserving a spot is one thing.
It's a place,
So
it could be just a placeholder.
I don't think we have
for
to
it.
have all the i's dotted
Yeah.
and everything done by January 1,
But if, for instance, if Lexington did expect that, we would have another meeting, so we
Exactly.
wouldn't have another place. But you're right.
I'd like to add one more thing. I did this for another project that I'm now working on. But if you want to go onto the Castle Booze site, they're the ones that are doing our design work. And it is extremely impressive, the work that Castle Booze has done on athletic fields and on athletic facilities throughout really the Northeast. It's, I don't know the number, but it's 25 to 30 different schools have used them in colleges for their athletic fields, so they're very skilled at what they're doing. And I understand they're also now working in our town.
Right, they
in
are.
Dover,
Oh,
so they're
you
working
were
there
sorry.
on a field
Castle
also.
Booze is?
Yeah.
Are they doing this project?
Yes.
Oh, a piece of information I did not have.
Now you have it.
Thank you.
And MSBA has approved their involvement.
Yeah.
The Attorney General did, Inspector General did.
Any other question or comment about it?
Just,
Yes.
It may be useful to send to the school committee as this document is being developed an early draft, just so that we can, prepare ourselves and understand even the categories of what it covers. So when the more detailed draft comes in, we can understand it faster. So even a early
Right.
draft doesn't have to be anywhere near reality, just to give us in the frame of mind so we can feel more comfortable with the process moving forward might be useful.
Right. That's what I was hoping when I said, or meaning when I asked to bring whatever we have, what's
To the
available.
December meeting.
December meeting, and start with that, yeah. Okay, anything else? I did want, now I just wanted to have Pam jump in here to talk about the enrollment task force and the agenda that is preparing to focus on what I brought up earlier about a special meeting, special school committee meeting focusing on enrollment. We're not going to get into she's going to talk about a process more than content at this point, because that's something they'll do at their meeting.
Right. At our last school committee meeting, we talked, in some detail about a number of the items that the enrollment task force was working on. We haven't had a meeting since then, but we are meeting this Thursday. So at that meeting, our agenda is really two major pieces. One is really making sure that we're moving ahead and have the appropriate follow-up on a lot of the initiatives that we talked about at our last meeting. And then the second is really to plan for a school committee meeting where we're focusing more, where we are focusing on the enrollment issue, and where we can really dive into fairly deeply how each of us can be supporting, the recruitment and enrollment activities of the administration, and making sure that in each of our towns that at least the bare minimum that needs to take place is taking place. So define what those things are and to make sure that, we're ensuring that that needs to happen. And then on top of that, besides the bare minimum, what do we need to do to make sure that we're meeting the goals that we want to meet?
Any questions for Pam? Okay. So the idea is for the Enrollment Task Force Committee to draft an agenda and goals for us that we would then bring to a special school committee meeting and learn about them, enhance them, whatever we need to do, support them. Were you poised to say something, Jeff?
The number one portion of this that comes to light has to do with my inability to bring up issues in my community. And I can't bring up some of these issues in my community because I'm just one person talking. I think you should be doing this, this, and this. And every community is doing different things in the admissions process. So what I need to be more effective is for us to come up with a document with what we believe, the administration, we're going to look at it and approve it, what each community should be doing, every community should be doing to support the admissions process. And once we kind of agree on that, then they can't just look at us as one person coming to talk to one community, say, this is what we should be doing and this is why. And we're in a much stronger position to get some of the things that we've been complaining about for 20 years done within our communities in terms of supporting our enrollment process. And as the year slips by, we get further into this season. There are more things that perhaps could have been done that hasn't been done. I think that's the thing that I want my hands to be untied to say, this is what we should be doing in Needham to support enrollment and put it in writing instead of being timid about doing so. So that's kind of the strongest focus of this. Is one aspect of what we need to be doing for enrollment, and the one that I'm kind of most focused on this week.
Okay, and anyone else? So I thank you I think I certainly can identify Jeff and Ford for bringing these to our attention, and for Pam, as chair of the enrollment task force, readily picking up the ball and running with it, as it were. Okay. You're on your way.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
School building.
Leaving is the best, the worst time.
Exactly, I know, but.
Say hi to Belmont for me.
School building committee report, Ford, update on the school building.
Thank you. Just because I'm always asked this as we go, we are on budget and we're on time, so that's all good news. I want to give a little different presentation because I'm not going to give it. I'm going to ask Jeff to give the building committee report. And it's based on yesterday, we had the opportunity to spend over an hour and a half, almost 2 hours in the building. It was a spectacularly beautiful day, if you remember. And all I can say is before, I don't want to take away Jeff's thunder, but we went as high up as you could go, less 2 feet, and we went as low as you could go to the very bottom of the theater, which I never knew existed down there, the catacombs. So we went as high as we go and as low as we could go. Jeff, would you mind giving the report for me, please?
Not at all, Ford. I'd be delighted to.
And you're so shy, I'm surprised you're doing it.
He's going to want to talk to you.
The first
Well, he's
thing,
on film.
the first thing you have to understand is that it's a problem going with Ford in these tours. He wants to stop all the time and stencil his name on every exposed beam, and that slows you down quite a bit. And really, it was pretty scary going up all those, because Ford wanted to go everywhere, up every ladder to the toppest point, braving the icy areas. You don't want to go near those. You don't want to go flying off the building or any of that. Going all the way down to the orchestra pit, which I don't think anybody has been before. When we were down there was not a lot of natural light. It was pretty dark, and it was wet because not everything is enclosed yet. So it reminded me of some of the scenes in Edgar Allan Poe's book, in which I expected to see, chains on the wall in the dungeon where we're going to strap, misbehaving students. Joking aside, it's at a point now where you can see a lot of the vision coming up. There's enough of the walls in place that you can get a sense of it. And I turned on my teacher hat a little bit and say, how would I like to be in this hallway here? How well are the classrooms shaped and placed? And what is the natural light like? And what are a lot of those little things that make a big difference that you cannot easily perhaps envision from the plans, except for people who are good at that? And I think I said a lot of times, Ford, when we were walking down one of those corridors, I said, this is a great corridor. We have so much natural light coming in or through the classrooms. We're going by the classrooms, which seem to be very large and well-shaped and well-designed. One side would be the classrooms. The other side would be the gym that you can look into, which is enormous. I think they said they're going to put 3 courts in there or something like that. It's a very large gym.
It's only one court's going in.
One court. But it's big.
It's not that big.
It's a good-sized area for the kids.
And you could look down through windows.
You can look down through the window at it, and that was true at a number of places here. You could look down through the windows to see what was
Interior
going on.
windows to see.
The interior windows. And so there are a lot of things in here, you can't vision 100% what the final product is going to be, but it didn't raise any red flags from my teacher point of view. It was a very pleasant experience walking down the hallways, envisioning what it's going to be like, considering yourself to be a teacher in that space. So far, still early, it seems to me, from my point of view, that the people who designed this thing were very thoughtful in ways that, you may not appreciate when you're thinking about the blueprint, that beyond the blueprint that, a person unfamiliar with it could say, oh, it's so nice, it's so blue and beautiful, The thought actually given into the spaces and the way that you flow through the building seems to be very good. Of course, it'll be different when there's not ladders and you can actually go up and down staircases and whatnot. But I was very impressed at this early stage of what it's going to be like to be inside the building and the shapes and the sizes of the spaces, and I was very happy with what I saw.
Good.
First time I've been there since it was like a hole in the ground.
You're done?
Yeah, I am. Thank you very much, Ford, for a very fun afternoon.
Good. Just so you know, next school committee we'll probably have the road going around the building will be in. Not the final road, but some pavement will be down. The walls it'll be tight, should be tight by mid-December. A day like today is not a good day necessarily in that building, only in parts, but it will be tight. There have just two more spaces where they're going to have to put the floors in. Culinary and all that's going to hopefully be done this week, if the weather doesn't say no. Then the gym will be done in a couple of weeks, and then all the floors will be in. Windows, for the most part, are in. It's amazing, and you're right. The classrooms now, when you go in there, you can see automotive, you can see carpentry, you can see the electrician part. It's coming along. So thank you for coming. Again, anybody that wants to go through, we can make that happen. It's pretty exciting.
And if you get there go on a Wednesday, you can, if there's going to be a meeting that morning, you can sit in and listen to some of the discussion that goes on among the people who are responsible for putting up the building. For instance, when I walked through with Ford, Marianne Williams was with us part of the time from Skanska, and she noticed, which I wouldn't have paid much attention to, that a part of I don't know if it was from the heating or air conditioning, but it was too far over. It was partially blocking a window. She, put that down on her list to make sure that was changed. But it's very interesting to see all the stakeholders who are working on the project meeting and talking about it, and they support each other, but they also press each other to say, is this being done? Is that being? When is it going to happen? And blah blah blah. I think they felt that they worked very well as a team, but they're all pushing to get the job done in a positive way and to get it done on time and on budget, and I'm sure it will. Just I'll just bring it up now. Although it's in the minutes about. One of the items says place asphalt binder at Look Road around building. Do you know what that did?
Loop. It's a misspelling.
Loop. I couldn't figure out what it was, so it's Loop. Okay, that takes care of that.
But it was quite a view going up top when you go, I know why you wear hard hats, because it wasn't built for somebody at least my height, because I must have hit my head 6 or 7 times going up and down. But, if I didn't have a helmet on, I might not be here.
But also,
but it's a spectacular view when you look over and you see this building. I mean, and you see it as clear as day.
The views in the natural light are impressive for that kind of building.
Yeah.
And when you do go, wear rugged shoes, because there's a lot of water, and on a rainy day it's muddy, so you don't want to walk around in your street shoes. Pardon me?
It's not an option.
And sorry.
You have to have steel toe shoes to be on site.
Yeah.
And now gloves, I guess.
As it gets
You got a pair
colder.
of those?
Do they have steel shoes to loan?
No.
You could put spoons on them. Tie spoons on the laces.
You can wear a boot, but, you know, you gotta dress appropriately.
But do go. I really urge you, do go. Okay. Anything else about the building, Ford? Or Jeff? Okay. Principal Support Jack Dillon, update on the ALICE drill, acronym ALICE. It's on, yeah,
Yep, you should have that handout in front of you.
right.
So we practiced a Alice drill with our students probably about 2 weeks ago. In my opinion, it went extremely well. We had help, obviously, from our staff. And we've been practicing these drills with our staff for probably about 5 or 6 years now consistently. And it's, you know, I don't want to be that principal that doesn't send a kid home from school because something happened in the building. And so when I came on as principal, Ed gave me all the support that I needed to kind of move forward with this type of stuff. I have a couple of colleagues behind me that I think will tell you that what we do and how we do it is working with our kids. Our staff takes it seriously, our students take it seriously. So on this particular day, we evacuated the entire building. As you can see by the picture, we have two evacuation sites that we can go to. We have Minuteman National Park, which we have an agreement with them, and we have the Aloft Hotel. And as of right now, even when we move into the new building, those again will still be our sites moving forward. We have great help from not only the Lincoln Police, but from the Lexington Police as well, and we'll continue to do that moving forward in the new building. But I can certainly take any questions. Does everyone know what ALICE means? I'll just go through it if you want to write it down. It's alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. You don't have to do any of those things in order. Basically, what it's doing nowadays is it's giving staff and students the opportunity to use common sense to get out of a situation. Where back maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, police would tell you to just kind of lock yourself in place. That's not always the best thing anymore. So if Brian and I or someone, Ed, whoever, had an opportunity to look at our screens that we have in our office and we saw an intruder, and now our phones are used as the intercom system, which is great, and they will be in the new building, along with 80 new cameras in the new building. We'll be able to tell our entire staff and student body, hopefully, where the intruder is, and then people should be making common sense decisions on what to do. For instance, if the intruder was down here, people up in the gym should get out of the building and get towards one of our evacuation sites. Obviously, if we were in here and the intruder was outside of our door, we'd have to hunker down in here. So just using common sense to make yourself safe. But I'll take any questions that you might have about the drill itself or
Jack?
anything that we're doing. Yep.
How long does it take to get the students from this site to the evacuation site?
So that's a great question. So what we did on that particular day, it was a beautiful day, by the way. It was probably about mid-50s. So it wasn't raining, but what we decided to do on that particular day is Lincoln parked a cruiser out by the Lincoln Gate, and Lexington parked a cruiser halfway down the street here. So we didn't have to go all the way down to the hotel, and we didn't have to cross 2A, because as you know, crossing 2A is a challenge in itself, and obviously we'll do that if we have to do that. But on this particular day, with the police effort, that's as far as we went, and I think we evacuated the building in less than 2 minutes.
Thanks.
Yeah. Kids took it very serious. Actually, Brian and I went around to all the shops afterwards and talked to the kids to get a feel of what they thought, and they actually felt that it should be ramped up even more. Because during the evacuation, Brian was saying, this is a drill. And actually, what I did simultaneously was I sent an alert now message out through our phone system and through the computer to let parents know that this was happening. So out of 500 and something students, we received one phone call. And it wasn't even a complaint, it was simply the parent had wished they gotten the information just a little bit earlier so they could have told their student. I'm like, well, that's exactly why
That's
we
the whole
don't do it.
point.
Yeah.
That's the whole
Yeah, so-
point, or half the point.
But you know what? One parent calling, I thought it was a success, so. But yeah, less than a couple minutes.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, considering the
Yeah.
times it takes to evacuate
Yep.
you know, when you do fire drills and
Right.
stuff like that.
So,
Yeah, this is a little bit more urgent.
yeah. So again, our students would like it ramped up even more. We're not really sure how to do that because if you don't say it's a drill and somebody assumes it's the real thing, then you do get kids texting their parents and you have parents here. So the one thing that we did realize that we didn't know is that we actually have a freshman here presently at Minuteman that just moved to Lexington. And he was actually at the elementary school in Connecticut.
Oh,
He was a
wow.
student there.
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook, yep. And his parents moved from there to Lexington, so
Wow.
he's here. So he came to us afterwards a little bit shaken,
I can imagine.
and he was happy to hear that it was a drill, but thought that the whole thing was perfect, and to hear it from him was great.
Wow.
So,
Well done.
Thank you, Jackie. Anything else for Jack on that?
and
Okay.
just as Ed can tell you, I think our new building is equipped with a lot more cameras, a lot more safety features, so I can't imagine there being another high school in the Commonwealth safer than ours, so.
And you going on to the Puerto Rico, trip to Puerto Rico, or are you going to present those?
Yeah, I can do that.
The motion is written on page 11 in your agenda, although it doesn't say that it doesn't say that there's going to be a vote, but there is a vote. It's on page 11 if you want to read it. And it's to approve, and it says on page 11, to approve the 2019 community service trip to Puerto Rico. And then the description of it is on page 14.
Yeah, I have it here, Dave. Actually, 3 staff members are seeking to take approximately 20 students to Puerto Rico on March 31st, 2019, and return on April 6th, 2019. This is in coordination with the 9 for 9th and the St. Bernard Project. Cost to each student would be about $1,100, but fundraising efforts will offset some of those costs.
Do I hear a
But we wanna
motion to approve the trip, and then we can have any discussion? Any discussion about the trip?
Go ahead.
Dave?
So I was just going to ask you, you mentioned fundraising. So have there already been
The motion's
efforts
on page
put
11.
in place to work on that?
3 colleagues that plan on attending the trip are actually here, if you'd like to hear from them.
Sure.
Yeah, so most of the kids pay for themselves,
Yeah.
and those students who can't afford it, for whatever reason, will either get scholarships of some sort, or we are doing some fundraising at the carpentry shop through the culinary arts department, and.
You want to introduce yourselves?
Oh, yes, I'm Cliff Kirsten, carpentry.
Erin Bordeaux, Visual Arts.
Bonnie Maynard, the advisor to community service.
So they haven't been started yet. The students have to turn in an application this year that describes why they want to come. And we haven't even, the deadline for the applications is November 29th, and we're not going to start fundraising efforts until we know which students are coming and what their financial need is. There's going to be a process for requesting that financial assistance, and any fundraising that we do that's above and beyond that student need will then go directly to the St. Bernard Project in Puerto Rico to help fund their efforts in other ways too.
Yeah, I just,
Hasn't started yet because
$1,100 is a lot to ask for a family to participate in a voluntary program to do community service. Again, if you look at, 20 students that are attending, you're roughly, $25K. That's a lot of fundraising as well. So, and I know there are families of need, but there are also families that can contribute. But again, the essence of the project is service. And so I fully believe, and I've seen in other projects, if you rally the kids and get them motivated, they'll come up with the money.
Yeah, that's our plan.
And then any additional funds that aren't needed for the trip can offset supplies to some of that stuff. So worthwhile, but get the kids involved in generating the revenue, because they can do it. And again, if we can assist, then I would suggest that you ask, and we'll see if we can find money in the budget. But it's an important trip, but I don't think the kids should have to bear all the costs.
no, we don't, we did have a meeting, an informational meeting. We just need to make sure that students understand they're making a commitment, not just a monetary commitment, but a commitment of service from the moment that they turn that application in. So in the past, we've had students who have requested financial aid and then not been fully participatory. So this year, we're making sure that we really have students who are committed and will then work with them from the moment that they're accepted to the moment we leave to raise as much money as we can. And we
Yeah,
have
perfect.
lots of plans for it, but we're trying to really go about it in a linear process. So it just hasn't started yet. but-
Yeah, perfect, sounds great.
Thank you, guys.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? None, so it's 8-0.
Great, thank you. The next trip is John Xavier is seeking permission to take approximately 30 students and 7 chaperones to Loon Mountain, leaving Saturday, January 12th, 2019. They'll be leaving Minuteman at 6:30 a.m. and returning around 7:30 p.m. And just for an FYI, the Minuteman Parent Association made a donation to this trip, if it gets approved, of $700.
Need a motion?
Yeah, a motion to approve. Then I'll have a question.
Second?
Okay, Ford and Dave. I did have one question. It talked about that the bus had a satisfactory rating of satisfactory. I was wondering, is there a higher rating than satisfactory?
Actually, Dave, as of right now, we're more along the lines thinking of using 2 Minuteman vans rather than one big bus. The cost of
Okay.
a big luxury bus was just too much.
But do you happen to know if there is a higher rating than satisfactory?
I do not. I could look into that for you, though.
Just curious. Maybe that's it, it's either satisfactory or unsatisfactory
Right.
rather than a rating scale, but that sort of caught my attention. Okay, yeah, but you're taking that. Yes, Alice.
I just want to say, I think it's great that the school has a ski club.
You want to go? Ski, I mean. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? 8-0.
I do have one comment.
Yes.
The new building on the roof over the cafeteria is sloped, and the ski jump club could be started perhaps in Minuteman. They can. No. Okay. Well.
Little liability.
Really? So I'm just trying to think out of the box.
Ski jump club.
Jump club. You know,
Okay.
it's like the right
Next
shape,
trip.
the right height.
Next trip,
So I need a motion. Someone want to read the motion?
So moved.
to approve the out-of-state field trip to New York City.
The next trip, Sherry Nason is seeking permission to take 16 dual enrollment students to New York City on Thursday, May 24th, 2019, leaving Minuteman at 6:30 a.m. and returning to Minuteman approximately 10:30 or 11 o'clock. And they have a few different venues that they take a look at once they get there.
And this is the dual enrollment course, just to remind you what that is. This is a college course that's being taught in Minuteman.
Just one quick question. Under participating students, it says since 1865, junior students, blah, blah, have a pass grade.
It's United States history since 1865 is the name of the course.
Oh, okay,
We
okay.
don't have any students that way.
Well, I couldn't, United States history since 1865. Very
Although
good,
we'll accept applications.
very
Meet goal
good,
one.
very good. Thank you, Jack.
No problem. Sorry about that, Dave.
No, it's all right, it's just my feeble brain. Any questions or discussion? Comments? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? 8-0. Thank you, Jack.
Dave, can I just say one more quick thing
Sure.
before I get off here? The Minuteman Parent Association just recently ran a Make-A-Wish campaign for our staff, and they gave away $2,500 to, I think, 6 different staff members who requested it. And the ski club, again, asked for nobody asked for anything specifically, but they got $700, and other staff members got money for different things that they need, too. So I thought it was pretty nice of the MPA.
Very good, yeah. It seems to be quite active this year.
They're a great
Yeah,
group,
yeah,
yep.
good. Okay. Assistant, I know Kevin is away, and so Michelle, you're going to be presenting for Kevin on the quarter, which starts on page 21, the first quarter financial reports, et cetera.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Michelle Shepherd, Assistant Business Manager. Kevin's absence, we're going to go through his reports.
Thank you to the two of you. Thank you both. Thank you.
I got your T-shirt.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, Michelle.
No problem. The first one is the budget expense report. The summary pages, there's two of them on top, and then the detail is in the back, the longer pages. Some things to note that we've been working on realigning positions over the last couple of years as we transition into the new school and things have changed around here with the curriculum and everything. So one of the items, like on line 17, we have a new position, the Assistant Director of Admissions that we brought on. And also on line 20, we have a long-term sub for one of the teachers. Even though we've added those two positions, there's others that haven't been filled or they have been realigned. Back on line 5, there was a position that wasn't filled. So overall, you can see that we're good and we're on target. If you look at line 37, that's positive 268,000. On the second page, we've got the new utility rates in place. The new natural gas will be November 1st, and then we have the electric going to become effective November 1st of 19. That makes sense. One of the rates, the gas rate was down and the electric was up a little bit, but that's what we're kind of anticipating what it'll look like. In addition to that, there's another item down on line 83, which you're kind of aware of. In the last meeting, Kevin discussed the new bond that we had gone out for, the 46 million. The rate being a little higher than what we've had in the past. We weren't really sure when we did the initial projection where we would stand. So as you can see, there's like 60,000 right in there that we're over on that. But the total overall budget was still $1 million. You can see on the very last line. So we're in good shape still. And we'll continue to watch things as we go along. On the other report, the revolving, both of these reports, by the way, have gone through the Finance Subcommittee as the last meeting.
Starting on page 21.
I believe it is, yes. They're all pretty much in good shape. We did have an addition. We've included some new lines on the second page, excuse me, for the post-secondary programs that we're running. And also you can see in there, in the middle of the page, the 100,000, which is a budget line item that is usually used by community ed, the PG programs and the rentals in the past has been shifted towards the new program to try to get that up and running and give it, a little help along the way. I think other than that, we're pretty much in shape. Food service will be discussion coming up later. We did run over. It had to do with staffing. There was a maternity leave. I think Kevin may have mentioned it in the past. But that's since changed around with the new director and different staffing. So this year should be a little different.
Any questions or comments from anybody? Carrie, anything from finance?
Well, we've got on the community
Yeah.
section here.
Right.
We've got a couple of quick things to say. But I will, Michelle has been with us now for several months, about a year,
2 years,
2 years. Oh my goodness.
moving on, yeah.
Time flies when
Nice.
you're having fun. Anyway, she has been very good about getting the materials out to us ahead of meetings and answering questions that we send her before. And then the answers to questions we submit come back to us before we meet on the spreadsheet. And then, so that means that our discussion at the meetings can be very much focused. You know, occasionally there will be an additional question that comes up, but she just always seems to have the answer at her fingertips on the details, which leaves Kevin free to focus more on the big picture, and that's very helpful. She also came with us to Finance Committee meeting in Concord. First week of October, I think
Yeah.
it was. Great to have her there, too.
One
Okay.
other comment, if I may,
Yes,
Dave.
sure, of course.
The preliminary 20 budget, along with the membership assessments, were reviewed by the Finance Subcommittee. The budget guidelines were what we had based, were established with initial 5.75% increase in the operating budget. There'll be more discussion on the budgets, and starting December 6th, we have the E-team presentation for the budget needs.
And if I could add, at the very earliest sort of look at next year has gone to the town managers, as I understand?
Yes. The assessments. the
Yes,
growth
yeah.
assessments
And
Last week.
historically, what we've sent them this early in the process has been sort of on the high end, so that it comes down as we focus in on some of those details.
Jeff?
Would it be truthful to believe that there may be some increase in the operating budget due to the expenses of the transitioning to the new school for this coming year? Or is that premature? That would be more the next
There'll
year?
be some that could be attributed to the transition.
Okay.
We've identified sort of pockets of where we think that's going to be. And we'll talk more about it when we.
I want to make sure that there's enough in there to handle the expenses that'll happen, which will probably be substantial
Yeah, we talked
moving
a little
in.
bit about it.
Yeah, we did.
Yep.
And moving to the new operating arrangement in the new building, which you mentioned before, have some expenses, because you may have to have a personnel with expertise in the systems that run the new building, so there may be more expenses to that,
This is the
too.
finance committee report that.
Right.
Right, okay,
Do
good.
you want me to just go to it now, as we're on the, more or less on the
Michelle, are you
slide?
finished?
Yes, I'm all set, thank you.
Yeah, we could do that.
I'm all excited to
Okay.
hear.
Basically, what I was going
Nice of you
to
to
report,
ask.
because we've already talked about the tuition, out-of-district tuition, which remains on our agenda but unresolved at this point, is the upcoming budget preparation that the Finance Committee will be working on with staff. Our 4 meetings, and you are all welcome to sit in on them. One is on the 6th. That one will be the sort of overview of what staff is looking for, and the impact of the move, I expect, is going to be sort of a prime topic there. On the 18th of December, second meeting on the 8th of January, and on the 31st of January are our 4 meetings as we go through the various phases of the budget. And then on February 6th is the budget hearing for the full board. So basically, I'm inviting you to come observe, ask questions if you'd like to, especially to that overview meeting on the 6th,
That's December 6th, yeah.
December 6th.
So my suggestion would be that sometime over the next half year, there's a presentation by the administration to let us know what the different expenses would be The different things would be in operating the new building, not just the transition to moving from here to there, but the ongoing operating. So we can kind of get an idea of long-term, the new things that'll be in our operating budget, whether it's going to go up or down and why. So just to give us an idea of what's going to be required in the new building that's different in this building.
We'll be happy to do that. When we submitted our design development materials to the MSBA back in 2016, we had to submit to them an FY20 budget and identified those, because they asked us that 5 years ago. So we'll kind of have that as a third column.
Al, sorry.
I wanted to ask about the out-of-district tuition thing. That has been alluded to already at this meeting and at other meetings, and it's kind of floating around out there, but it's not sitting anywhere officially. And it's not something that any subcommittee can make a decision about, and the officers can't make a decision about it.
Absolutely.
That's exactly
So
our point.
it needs to be something that's discussed ad nauseum here at some point, many times, so we actually understand what's being proposed and the purpose of it. I'm just reiterating something that I think Ford said earlier. I worry that things in general and the functioning of the committee, which has been pretty solid, are starting to kind of, go off on their own, and that will end up getting us into trouble.
Well, we haven't used that language, Alice, we've talked about it, but the Finance Committee wanted to get a handle on what Jim was proposing, so we could understand it and then bring it to the school committee perhaps with a recommendation or not with a recommendation, but we wanted to be able to understand it, to process it for the group. There's also, as we talked about at the Finance Committee, there are really sort of two parts to it. One is the calculation formula, and the second one is the political ramifications of the whole thing. But we felt that that it was sort of our charge, if you wish, to go through it, to understand it, and then to bring it to the school committee for a full discussion. We're not going to come to the school committee saying, we'd like you to vote on this. It's where we will present what we have gone through and what we understand, because it's complex and it has a lot of significant ramifications. At least I'm feeling that way. I think others may feel that way too. But we fully intend, there's full intention of bringing it to this group for total review and to gain an understanding of it.
Yeah, what I would like to add there is, remember the, whatever formula we end up with, the Article 10B, whatever it
It's
whatever is the
10B.
Relates to setting an out-of-district tuition such that a sending community of an out-of-district student will be paying the average equivalent to the average tuition or
No less
average
than.
assessment that for an in-district student. So there's lots of moving pieces about that because, we get the state aid, we, the district here, get the state aid for in-district kids. The state aid is retained by the sending community of an out-of-district kid. We pay the transportation for in-district kids. The sending community for out-of-district pays and there's the special education fee, and there will be the capital fee and all of that coming in. So what are those pieces? But what is the average? How do you calculate that? What does it mean? Does it mean everybody pays the same, or do you try to subtract all those pieces and add them back together again? That's one, but you also alluded to the political side of it. That piece of the revised regional agreement was not worked out by the original task force. It was a last-minute try to get the amendment, the regional agreement and the project passed. It was a pacifier to the sort of holdout communities. Some people might think it didn't work because, we ended up losing 6 communities and possibly Belmont as well. So what do you do with it? Is it still relevant? If we have a new community joining, that gives us, if and when, it gives us the reason to go back, the necessity, actually, to go back to all of our member communities with another amendment to the regional agreement, in which case we would have the opportunity to go back to that section as well and say, is this still relevant? Is this still something that people want? So I think there's a longer discussion than just what's the formula. And we're trying to figure out what those pieces are.
Right.
Have the finance committee at least understand, and as David alluded, we might not necessarily, as a group of 3 people, support the concept, but there seems to be an obligation to offer it because it is in the regional agreement as it has been agreed to.
Jeff?
There's also a restriction on the maximum amount we can charge. So let's remember that too.
Well,
So,
And that's, whatever we,
That's one of the
whatever we
pieces.
come up with is going to be way over what the commissioner has approved. And so it will require a waiver from the commissioner as well.
well,
I just caution the school committee not to workshop this too much because it's
Right.
not on the agenda.
correct, yeah. But
Yep,
And it will be discussed.
it will be discussed. Yep, you're right. Here's all the reasons it's not on the agenda. That's.
Yeah, because,
Just got 15 minutes of reason why.
because we're not ready
I
for
did,
it. But it will be an important agenda item, no question about that. Okay. Anything else from the Finance Committee on on other Finance Committee topics?
Just very quickly, that we are looking at the post-secondary budgeting for the current year, the coming year. Of interest is that the programs can't be accredited until they can be observed, so they have to be running to be observed. And they're not eligible for financial aid until they're accredited, as I understand it. So means it will be a growing program. You have to get people who are willing to pay the full tuition so that they will run, then they can be accredited. Then, like 2 years from now, somebody may be able to get financial aid for the program.
Any question about that? Yeah, that's my understanding too. Anything else? Carrie?
Nope.
Okay, let's move, we'll go back to this, thank you, Michelle, and we'll go back to the Strategic Planning Committee to hear what it's doing.
Yes. So, as you will remember, our first goal, we submitted a good deal of information to support evolution in school committee membership, to support towns in selecting, appointing members, and supporting new members coming on. And the second goal that we're pretty close to finishing up on is a report that will support the school committee thinking about what skills and talents and interests they would like to see in future leadership teams based on where Minuteman School is right now and will be over the next number of years. And we have crafted a report in 3 pieces that I think is really helpful. The first piece of it talks about or describes the CBTE environment in Massachusetts as it is today. The second piece is some very relevant historical information on where Minuteman has been in the last many years, and it covers a lot of things that I did not know about that we have been first at doing and been very successful at. So that's helpful, I think, in thinking about enrollment stuff as well. But the last piece of it is written by staff, talking about, with great enthusiasm, the new programs that are coming through with the new school and the academy model. Our intent is to provide that to y'all before the next school committee meeting, and at the next school committee meeting to take a little time to go through the report and ask people to consider what they, as individuals, would like to see in the next leadership team, given that, we have a joint understanding of where we are today and where we'll be in the next couple of years. So we would request, assuming we get this done, which I think we will, we would request that people take a little time to review the report when they get it, or before the next school committee meeting, and that we have a little time on the agenda to go through it.
Like maybe like a half hour or something?
Maximum.
More, max?
Max, yeah.
Okay.
We want to do a little presentation, and,
Just gives a round
yeah,
number anyway, thank you.
yeah, great.
Okay. Any questions for Sue? Just sort of piggybacking on that, I've talked to a couple of people about this who might be leaving the school committee. There are 4 people whose terms are up at the end of this year. Jim Gamble, who was filling in for, completing Jack Weiss's term, Dave O'Connor, Carey, and Ford. And what I would like to talk to, I may just do it individually with you, to ask you, for number one, not tonight, but do you wish to be reappointed? And even if you do or don't wish to be reappointed, how would you like me as the chair to interface with your towns? Because there's some information and some guidelines, suggestions that were developed by the Strategic Planning Committee for how to inform town meetings or boards of selectmen in towns about what we'd like to see in a member, and as the qualifications that we have put together, you've put together for what we see as an effective member of the school committee. So I want to talk to you individually about what you would like me to do on your behalf. And also, just a reminder that I think your first report is on the school system, the school's website. So if you go under school committee, I think you can find it. So it's being quote unquote stored there. So you can go back and take a look at that. But if you will, you could let me know. Let me know at some point if you wish to be reappointed. And then I can talk, or not reappointed, and then we can talk, maybe after the first of the year, talk about just what process we should go through with your towns in order to bring them up to speed about to find someone who could not possibly be better than each of you to succeed you on the school committee, and what you'd like me to do as chair. I think there's a role for the chair as well as for the member. Any question about that? Good, so we look forward to that next report, and we'll book at least 30 minutes at the next meeting, so thank you. Special Policy Task Force, Alice?
Okay. I'm not going to give a summary of policies recently reviewed because we did that not too long ago, but I would like to just remind the committee that in 2009, I believe it was, we hired a consultant, Angela Avery, who was retired superintendent from Norfolk Aggie, I think she was at Norfolk, to help update the policy manual, which was then pre-ed reform. So it was back into the 80s. So in 2009, so that's 9 years ago. And at the time, we tried to consider having an online policy like manual and board document system as they do in the state of Connecticut. Many school committees use something like that. And we talked about it then. We haven't since talked about it, but I think it's something that the committee should think about again. Some arm of the school committee, maybe the officer should consider whether there's a mechanism for having an effective online board tool instead of the paper packets. Just putting that out there. And reminding you that historically, we actually already looked at that at one time. So policies for review, you're looking at page 29. These two policies are ones that were brought to us by Amy Perot because of the coordinated program review. We need to review these two policies and update them. And she provided the edits. Julia provided the red line documents, and I added a reference to one. So the first one is JKAA, physical restraint of students. policy. This is an important policy that we had a very minimal version of before. It updated will be much more procedural, really, but required. And I got no questions about it. Julia, did you get any questions? No. Okay. Does anyone have any motion to make on this one?
I have a motion and a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Motion is to accept the policy for first reading.
Thank you.
And the question is, do we know the meaning of mechanical restraint and seclusion? Even kind of vague.
No, but that is the MASC version of the policy. That comes directly out of their policy, so.
Ed, have you set up the training and selected the group of people for this training?
It's the same group has been identified for a couple of years. Brian Tillsley is trained, and now
We've increased it this year to add a few more people, yeah.
Right. And within that training, they must define mechanical constraint and seclusion.
It's probably something you envisioned when you were in the orchestra pit.
Well, that's what I was thinking of. I was just wondering then, if you can't do ever mechanical constraint, then you have to do.
I don't know the exact answer.
Right.
It wouldn't apply to our students.
That could be tying up someone, that would be too
You
mechanical.
can't put iron braces.
But
around them.
so you have to, I'm just wondering if you got to physically hold them for the duration of when they're dangerous. It might be very challenging to do that in those very rare incidents.
That's actually something I know about because a program I used to work at did a lot of physical restraints. And mechanical, the state basically, it allows restraints where you're having physical touch. You can't use any type of, you can't tie or any type of artifact other than like using your hands to hold someone. So a mechanical restraint is using something other than that physical touch. Right.
And as a practical matter, I mean, it's not really something I can do because this is what the state says. I'm just thinking as a practical matter, one can envision circumstances when these policies could bring a danger to a teacher. If you have these kids are not so little anymore, and if you do run into the circumstances where somebody is becoming violent, then it may be very hard to create a safe situation for the, in a very extreme situation. Can I ask how many times, on average, a decade, do you need to do this?
I've been here for 13 years and 0.
Right, well, there you go. I'm all set to vote.
Okey dokey. That is excellent news, by the way. Thank you.
And just so you know, it describes a mechanical restraint as straps, or if a student was on a stretcher, the straps that would hold something like that, or a vest or something like that, so.
Okay, any other observations about this policy? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion on the table? It's unanimous.
8-0, yeah.
Okay, the second one, IHBF. So we did have one before that was quite short. This version that you have now is the MASC version with the word consecutive removed after 14, it's 14 school days with the word consecutive struck. So it's 14 school days cumulatively.
Should we just infer that can we infer that it's cumulative?
Well, she struck the word
I
consecutive.
know she did, but I wonder if it would be,
If a student's here multiple years, it really doesn't, I don't know. I oversimplify things sometimes, but it's 14 days.
in a school year, or?
Well, it says due to a physical injury, medical situation, or a severe emotional problem, so it's a particular
It's
thing.
14 days. So if we have a senior we're not going to wait for the 14th day in the senior year to provide them what they need, I guess is what. Some schools, don't do anything unless it's for a year. We have kids who we want to service
Yeah,
them.
I would think so too, yeah. Well,
So it's giving us the ability to service the kids in the way we know.
when you want to. Okay, all right.
That's how I interpret what we're trying to do with this.
Well, if that's so, I certainly would support that.
Any other questions?
Jeff?
I have two questions. The first question is, again, how often this happens. I bet this happens a lot more often than the other one. And the second question would be, just given both at once, is typically, how does this work? Because if a student is out for an extended period of time and a student is taking 5 or 6 classes, I know that this does not cover the career technical, it's
Correct.
the academic stuff. He's still missing, history and foreign language maybe. So do you have like a whole bunch of different teachers zip by
No,
to do it, or how do you do
it's
this?
one or two, depending on what the student's schedule looks like. Sometimes there may be an online opportunity
component.
for the student to participate in, not, an online course.
Mhm.
There are also a number of different, Khan Academy comes to mind.
Okay.
There are a lot of different things that could be
Okay.
assigned that the student could do to fulfill the requirements of the curriculum.
Now I'm starting to understand it. And basically, how often does this happen on average a year that you have run into this situation?
Unfortunately, it's not a rare
Right.
occurrence.
Okay. A lot of emotional issues keeping students out.
Social, emotional,
Right.
hospitalizations are
Right.
up quite a bit all over the state, and Minuteman.
Yes.
Not,
I see that in Newton increasing significantly as well, so.
On emotional?
Social, emotional
Social,
issues for
emotional.
students to be out for those sorts of issues is more frequent than it has been in
I
the
certainly
past.
experienced that too in Lexington. Any other question or comments? Jeff, did you have another question, or were you?
I was going to move it for first reading.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Done, moved
Is
for
there
first
a
reading.
second?
Any other discussion? All in favor for first reading? 8-0. Thank you, and thank you, Alice. Okay, moving on to the secretary's report.
Okay, bear with me here. I have a few suggested changes.
And it's-
Okay, so the first, if you look at page 35 in your packet. And the, let's see, hold on a second. And the paragraph, the second paragraph under the assistant superintendent's report, the one that starts, she explained the uptick in interest rates. Julia has rewritten that paragraph for us so that it's just reorganized it a little bit so it's a little clearer. I can read it to you or pass it out, whatever is easiest.
How different is it?
She basically rewrote, it's rewritten, it's not just a few little
Okay.
edits. So why don't I pass out the changes, and again, it's a second paragraph under the assistant superintendent's report.
Thank you.
The information is all the same, it's just reorganized a bit to be a little clearer. So it's the one that starts, Ms. Foster Welch also noted. So if folks could take a moment to look at that and see if you have any questions about that. And if not, we recommend substituting that paragraph.
Any question about it? Okay.
Okay, the second, I have a couple of other changes. The next is on page 36. And it's under the Watertown discussion.
The second paragraph, just to make it clearer, where it says Dr. Buquillan shared it was a great discussion, and the superintendent, to put in there the Watertown superintendent, has been positive, and invited Dr. Buquillan to have further discussions with and add Watertown School Committee, just to make it a little clearer.
So 2 Watertowns.
So to put 2 Watertowns in there. And then the line after that, to rewrite that to say discussion ensued regarding Watertown enrollment and access issues. Okay, and then my final suggested change is on page 39, under the last paragraph under D, approval overnight field trip to annual US Skills USA conference. Just to make it a little clearer, where it says Mr. Horton noted that the students, to just say Mr. Horton noted that Minuteman students have taken these trips before and confirmed this and add trip is in compliance with add Minuteman requirements and policies. Okay? And with that, I move to approve the minutes of October 16th, 2018 as amended.
Any other discussion or comments? Okay, all in favor? Dave, you're abstaining?
I have to abstain.
And 2, so it's 6-0-2. Do we make it?
I have to unprotect and say this one is abstaining, and Bolton is abstaining. We have 50% weighted yes votes, 40% is required. We're okay.
Okay, very good.
So that's fair.
Okay, is there a need for an executive session?
Yes.
All right. And also, well, I'll do it the next time around. Do I hear a vote to go into executive session and reading what's, and not to return to open session? And who would you like to attend? You, obviously. And-
Me, Julia, and the committee.
Okay, very good. So, go ahead, Sue.
Second.
All right. We have to take a vote. We will just a sec, yeah. You can start voting.
Aye. Over, yes.
Carrie Flood Concord, yes.
Dave Horton Lexington, yes.
Pam Newsack, yes.
Sue Shepherd, Arlington, yes.
Jessica Lindeen, yes.
Dave O'Connor, both.